Hey guys, how you doing? This is Zed from Zedoutdoors. I hope you're having an awesome day. So this is a continuation of a previous video that I've done with Manse from Wilderness Pioneers. Manse, how you doing?
I'm good, Zed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back.
I know.
Again.
Again, in the same day. So we done a previous video, which has been a very well received video on making cordage from cedar bark. So this is a little series that I'm doing with Manse, who's a head instructor at a school called Wilderness Pioneers, based in beautiful Oxford. So it's been a very well received video in terms of making cordage from cedar bark. So continuing from the series on cedar itself, Manse is now going to show me and yourselves also how to make cordage from cedar root. Now this is the first time I'm seeing this process. I'm just as eager as you watching this right now. And this series ties in with a lot of the stuff I'm doing in my Bushcraft base camp. And obviously building cordage is going to be a big thing in terms of building structures and everything else that goes with it, as well as obviously a raft of other projects. So this video specifically is designed as a tutorial where Manse is not only showing me but also showing you how to go about this. We're in a privately owned woodland, and the cedar that you're about to see that we're going to be using, it's all being responsibly managed in this woodland, so we're not just kind of hacking away for the sake of it. So this is what being managed on an ongoing basis.
It is, yeah. It's a big project that the landowner's got.
Okay.
They're just going to manage the woodland and take out firewood and encourage the habitat as well.
Okay, perfect. So the key thing here is don't go hacking away at trees just for the sake of it. Make sure whatever you're using as a result of watching this video and in general is making sure that you're doing it in a responsible manner. So everything you're seeing here is being responsibly taken care of. So without further ado, we'll get started on this video on how you can make cordage from cedar root.
There's one thing Zed's failed to mention. He's going to get me to do all the work again.
I want to get him to do all the work again. You see, I'm just a supervisor here.
Yeah.
Overlooking his workmanship.
Overlord.
That's it. And at the end, you're going to see marks out of 10. You know, like in the ice rinks where they hold up the numbers. That's what we're going to do.
I hope you've carved them out of wood.
That's it. We can use Adobe Premiere skills to do like a replica, 5 of me, holding up different scoreboards. So that's it. We get a unanimous thing. So that's it. So let's get on with the video where we're going to show you how to make cordage from cedar root.
Let's do that.
So Manse, we're going to be working this area here. So obviously this has been kind of felled recently, hasn't it?
This is actually a tree that fell a couple of years ago, and the owner come along and decided that they want to cut it back and utilise the wood. So yeah, it's relatively fresh. If you imagine this whole tree had just fallen down over there, and once they chopped it back, the root ball, which was up at 90 degrees, has fallen back in.
Right.
There is an issue with that. It's made our job harder, because beforehand you can imagine this root ball up and we just had access to all the roots underneath and made it a lot easier. So like I said earlier, you're going to get me to do all the hard work again.
That's it. I'm here for moral support though.
You are, aren't you?
So
okay, so what we've got is the cedar here, and you know, it's a fair old age. But the advantage of him falling back, he has started to expose some of the roots. And what you can just see here poking through is one of the roots. And what we're going to do using the digging stick.
So this is, just to kind of pause there for a second. So this is a primitive digging stick that you've made. You have done a video on this on your channel, haven't you?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Cool.
The principle of a digging stick is that it's a really useful tool. Not only is it just a normal stick, you can use it as a throwing stick to get game. But the main feature of it is that it's being fire hardened, so that tip is very, very hard, and I don't know if you can see, I can barely get a nail imprint into it. It's actually hurting me, but you can see it's barely indented in there, but it's been fire hardened, and the main advantage is it allows me to dig into ground and try to expose the roots that I need to get to.
So what I'll do for those of you watching, I will put a link, needless to say, to the social media for Manse and Wilderness Pioneers, but I will put also a link directly to the video where it's a fantastic video actually, where you've shown step by step how to make a primitive digging stick. So using that, you're now going to dig up around the root.
Yeah, so the principle is that we want to follow this root as much as possible. So we know the root's here, and it's just a case of scraping back and trying to see where it's going. Yeah, we can see it's getting off here. And in the process, while we're digging through, following one route, we will come across others. And it just creates a whole maze, as you can imagine any tree would, trying to produce as much of a structure as it can.
So a question I have for you. So let's say I'm in a woodland and there's a live cedar tree.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it still be appropriate for me to dig up and dig up a root, or what's the...
Yes, it is, because there are plenty of roots, but as with any sort of foraging, we've got to be aware of what sort of impact we're having.
Okay.
If we're foraging wilds, for example, we'll only take 10%, 15% maximum, so that we're not having an impact on the environment of that species. And exactly the same with roots. We can take the odd root from each tree, but where you'll find one tree, there should be more, so spread yourselves around. It does involve more work, but at least you're not having an impact on the tree or the immediate habitat around it either.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So we've got quite a thick root, as you can see. It's beginning to bury itself now, so let's see how effective this digging stick is, just going through the ground. And I can feel another root somewhere under here. There we go, there's another beautiful root there. So I'm going to expose that one as well.
Is this a similar technique for spruce root as well, isn't it?
Yeah, getting any sort of root is exactly the same technique. You're just exposing the ground, following the root down. Is he going? There he is.
And in terms of thickness of what you're looking for, is there a particular thickness that you're looking for when digging up for roots?
Not really. I don't want them too thin like this. Obviously it comes down to what sort of use I want. If I'm making, for example, fishing hooks or smaller implements, roots like this are perfect. You can see, what's that, 3mm maybe? I was going to follow that down. We still will. We'll see how far it goes, how difficult it becomes. But we can split those roots into thinner thicknesses depending on what the aim is. Calorie wise, it's more efficient to collect the thicker roots, because then we've done all the work, and out of that we can split that down into 4, 8 strands quite easily. So for that one piece of effort I've got 8 strands out of it, compared to this where I may just get 1, I'll probably get 2 out of that. But again, it will come down to what I want to make out of it or how I want to use it.
Right.
But I do like this one here. That's rather nice. So what I'm going to try to do is expose this one, and I'll come back to that one as well. May even collect that just for my own use. We'll see. Be a nice little fishing hook. You notice I'm just tugging the root a little bit, and where it's going into the ground, the little tug is giving a little bit of a displacement on the root, on the earth. It gives me the direction that this root is roughly going in. And you can see the biggest displacement is around this area. I don't know if you can catch it on the camera, Zed, but it's sort of going in that direction. So rather than me going off in this direction where I thought initially it was going, to just move around, it becomes a lot more efficient in exposing what we want. So just loosen a bit of the ground and just carry on. So getting a decent length out of this one.
So for the purposes of the demonstration of this video, you've got a sufficient length?
Yes, yeah, we've got sufficient. What I just need to do is break it off there. There we go. So we got a, what's that, roughly 2 metre length, and that will do us perfectly for what we need. It's actually decent length. Maybe I'll get a crappy one for you and keep this for myself. No, so it is that easy, and you can see it's quite pliable, and we'll take that back to base camp and show you the next process on it.
So Manse, we're back at camp. We've obviously got the roots.
Yeah.
Now what's the next step in the process?
Right, now what we need to do is we need to strip the outer bark from the roots, and as you can see where the digging stick hit it, we're beginning to expose the inner bark is what we want. The outer bark becomes really brittle and just gets in the way when we're doing any sort of cordage from it. So we want to try to get the best cordage from this, and we need to, as I said, take all that off. There's 2 ways we can do it. We can sit here and just scrape it off. I can bring my knife out and use the back of your blade, just scrape. It takes a bit of time, as you can see. I've got to keep turning around and get it off. The other problem, because it's quite a warm day today, is that this is beginning to dry already. So we want to sort of accelerate that, particularly if we've got lots of cedar cordage that we've been able to get hold of, or any sort of root cordage. And what I'm going to do for that is, I'm going to use this piece of hazel and I'm going to create a stripping stick. And the stripping stick is basically, I'm going to put a chisel end onto the end of this, and then I'm going to put a fork into it in which I can scrape the bark through. Let's just get on with that. So this is just a piece of old hazel which was on the ground. It's really seasoned. So it's not going to be as straightforward as a nice green piece of wood. That doesn't matter. We can use green, we can use brown. And if you're wondering what cut this is, I'm using a chest lever cut here, which allows me to put a lot of force into this. As you can see, I'm going through that quite carefully. 2 advantages with that cut is that it's using the big back muscles, allowing me to pull this apart, and also because it's just the back muscles, I'm not using my arm, my knife's not going flying off, so it's quite a safe sort of cut, puts a lot of power into this. Okay, so you can see my chisel. Now I need to just cut a V-notch into this, so I'm just going to be very careful, making sure my other hand is out of the way, and just back and forth, cutting that V in. Doesn't matter if the ends strip off, I mean break off, if you've made it a bit too thin like I have, got carried away with my chest cut, but the point is we can always resharpen. After all, we're not going primitive, we've got a knife, we can do that.
So there we have the finished cut, okay?
Yeah, a nice little V, wide enough that I can get my thickest root into.
Perfect. So what's the next step in the process then?
So the next step is to strip in the best possible way. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just put my root into the groove, put my thumb on top and just strip backwards and pull it backwards, and you can see how effective that is. And just keep rotating it around.
So the bottom of the V in that notch, is that kind of a sharp V, or is that a little bit circular?
It was a sharp V. It doesn't matter if it's circular, because at the end of the day it's the sides of the notch which are doing all the work, and we want to try to keep them as 90 degrees as we can.
Okay.
Let's go to the other side. And just keep cleaning that notch, because it does fill up with all the root outer bark that we just don't need.
On a side note, is that useful as tinder if it dries up?
Yeah, anything dried off, which is fine. Any organic matter is flammable. I don't know of anything which isn't flammable. I'm sure someone will come on and tell me if I'm wrong.
The Bushcraft police will be on their beck and duty in the comment section.
Yeah, that'd be interesting actually. What isn't flammable? Hair will go up. I'm sure someone was going to come back and say hair isn't flammable, but even hair will go up. It stinks to high heaven. But no.
What about psycho ex-girlfriends? Are they easy
petrol
flammable?
Works really well with them. Okay, so there you go. You can see that we are down to the basic.
That was really effective. I'm quite impressed.
It is. It's very, very effective. You can imagine how long it would take if I just sat here scraping it and peeling it. If your root does go dry over a period of time, and as you can see, we only collected this, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And you can see how it's beginning to dry straight away. So if that's the case, just throw it back in water. Not a problem at all, and it will just rehydrate and you can just go for it.
So let's say, for example, I were to go out foraging, let's say roots.
Yeah.
Okay. What would your advice be? Let's say I wasn't going to get round to processing it until a few days later. Would you advise me to leave it in this condition and then wet it and then strip it?
Definitely. Because if you can't guarantee when you're going to come back to it, let it dry.
Right.
It's a resource that you've collected and it's there when you want it. When you are ready to work with it, throw it into some water, be it a stream, put a rock on it, otherwise it'll float away, a bucket, whatever container you've got, let it rehydrate, and then it just becomes nice and pliable again and you can use it as you want.
Perfect.
Okay, so we've got our nice root and we can use it in this state. As you can see, it is quite pliable. The thicker stuff obviously won't bend as much, and if we put too much of a bend on it, it kinks, and any kink will produce a weakness. But with the strand we've got here, and also the thicker strand, let's get more out of it. And the easiest way to do that is to split it in half. Now, where you get a kink like this, it is workable, but for say, if you're new at this, you can get rid of it, but I think I know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to carry on and work with that kink. So, what I'm now going to do is use the knife very carefully to just put an initial split in that I can work on. So you need to be really safe with this, because biggest mistake I've seen is people use the tip of the knife, start cutting, it starts, and the knife catches, goes in, and it suddenly slips and it goes right over their knuckles. Oof. Okay, and I've seen some horrendous cuts. So what I do is a 3-finger grip with thumb and finger either side, and it's either side of the blade, either side of the root that I'm going down. And you can see where the root is catching, right at the base of the blade. And all I'm going to do is just rock it forward. And you can see if it does slip, that root is going to come up and hit the my palm, the swell of my palm, and it's just going to stop that far. Okay, nice safe way of doing it. So that's all I need. And now I'm going to start splitting this. Now the secret to this is go slow and watch where the cut is going, or the split is going. If it starts going to one side, as it is, I'm deliberately taking it to the side here, so you can see the right hand side is thicker than the left. To get that centralised, we then bend the thicker bit to bring the split back into the middle.
It's the same principle when cleavering wood, isn't it?
Exactly the same, yeah. And there we go, it's beginning to run off again, so I'm going to bring it back. There it is. Yeah, I'm just going to take it all the way down. So I'm maybe doing this a bit fast for you guys, but with both my fingers I'm feeling how easy it's bending, and so I don't need to watch it really carefully. I can feel that one side is flexing slightly more than the other, so I'm going to just bend the thicker side. Right, so I've lost it there because of this bend here. I didn't pay attention, so that's come off. Also, the other issue here, as I was explaining to you earlier, Zed, is this is where we had that side root come off that we sort of ripped through. So we've lost half of the root there anyway, so the root wanted to carry on where the other split went off. Roots are just like fibres on a tree, they will follow whichever direction they go. So that's exactly what happened here. The fibres were going off into the side shoot, which we can see we ripped off there, and that's why we lost it there. I could have worked harder, but I didn't. But the principle is that out of one thick piece, we've now got two. And these will work as perfect cordage for your shelter. And it's what we did use cordage-wise on the primitive shelter over there. A lot of the support beams were tied with cedar cordage as well, and as that dries it will shrink and just tighten really nicely. The best knot to use with these is the clove hitch, or a variation of the clove hitch. So you can imagine that going round two pieces of wood. I'll just take it back over itself, and just to finish, all we need to do is just feed it back through under the previous strands, proving very difficult with my fat fingers getting in the way, but once it's through we can take all the extra through and just tighten off, and that will lock into place.
So there you go, guys, that is a wrap. Cedar root. Once I finished Manse demonstrating, as you've just seen, we spent about 10-15 minutes of me doing it, which actually they've done a separate video that I'll be showing it. So I did actually do some work, Manse.
You did?
I did.
Not much.
I did, not much, but
No.
a little bit to warrant it. But it was a really good experience. Like I said, it's the first time I've seen it done in person, just as you're seeing it now on video, and I'm really impressed, you know. Once you kind of understand some of the nuances involved, it was really good. And I'm not just saying it to sound cliche, but it's a bit of a proud moment. You know, I was sitting there, I've done it, I kind of split it, you know, obviously debarked it first, and you're sitting there thinking you've got something really useful now.
Exactly, and it's learning that technique as well.
Yeah.
And you'll never look at a root the same way
No,
again.
no.
Never.
No, I was just mentioning to Manse off camera that natural cordage is a big thing in my mind for a long time. I've been wanting to learn, and for me it really represents like the essence of bushcraft, you know, understanding your environment, making something from it that has got multiple uses. So Manse, I want to thank you once again.
You're welcome.
For taking the time to show
You're
me and
most
obviously
welcome.
the viewers at home the kind of process of using cedar root and making natural cordage. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is a part 2 where we use cedar bark to make cordage. Needless to say, a link below will be in the description to that video. We're also, depending on time today, recording maybe 1 or 2 other videos in terms of natural cordage. If those videos are out by the time you've seen this video, once again, links for those will also be in the description. If not, be subscribed to this channel and you'll be seeing those coming in the very near future. Also, needless to say, I will be putting a link to Manse's social media. So he's the head instructor at the company Wilderness Pioneers based in Oxford. So the first thing I'm going to put to is their YouTube channel. They have done some absolutely fantastic videos, and I really do mean that. Also, what I will actually do, rather than putting a link to the direct channel, I'll put a link to the tutorial where you've done the digging stick.
Yeah,
And
that'll
obviously,
be handy.
yeah, and it's a fantastic video. It's the first time I've seen the process on video. And if you watch that, then obviously you can go definitely subscribe if you like what you're seeing that they're doing on their channel, which is some fantastic work. And they have a lot of great videos planned
We do.
for the future. They're also going to be building a new primitive for shelter. So as you can see behind me, that's their kind of phase 1. So they're going to be doing a brand new one at a brand new site.
Yep.
So I'll put a link to the YouTube, that specific video, making a digging stick. Be sure to subscribe. I'll also put a link to their Facebook fan page. They're very active on there, doing a lot of stuff. So if you follow them on there, then obviously you can engage with them there also. And third, I'll put a link to their website. We can find out a lot more about the amazing work they're doing at this beautiful site. tuition, training, etc. They do a lot of stuff.
We do a lot.
Especially at this time of year, there's a lot of stuff going on, and throughout the year in general. So I'll put a link to those three in the description below, as well as the other cordage making videos. Manse, I want to thank you once again
You're welcome, Zed.
for taking the time out.
One last thing.
Please.
Here is your cedar root. It's yours. You made it, unlike the one Tank Tracks stole from me. But there we go. It's yours. Cherish it.
Thank you so much. It's very kind of you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. We'll be using this in future videos.
I hope so.
So once again, thank you so much, Manse. I really do appreciate you watching. Do check out the links below. And as always, from Manse and myself, I hope whatever you're doing, you have a blessed day, a blessed week ahead. This is Zed from Zedoutdoors. Peace out.